All right, Barry, it's showtime.
It's showtime, Phil.
It's showtime, baby.
It's showtime, baby.
It's showtime, folks.
Come on, Bubba, it's showtime.
Showtime, bitch. Showtime.
Hey, Ringo, showtime.
Okay, Trey, showtime.
Showtime, Trail.
Showtime.
Showtime. Showtime.
Showtime.
Don't say it. Please, don't say it.
No, I have to say it, Mitch. Showtime.
Ed Berliner, the fastest show in sports.
Greetings, true believers. Welcome in, minions. And how the hell you doing? I'm Ed Berliner. Welcome into the fastest show in sports. You will recognize me as the one redhead, the older guy, of course. And on my left, your right, the second redhead, which it seems these days, when it comes to Fridays, we're making it the redhead show, which is fine with me, man, because the world needs more redheads. That is former ESPN radio voice Kevin Winter. Would you not agree we need more redheads in the world before we get started?
Gingers unite. By the way, I've been trying for that to help that, but it just hasn't worked out over the years, buddy.
What's that?
Putting more redheads into the world. Is that how we want to start a Friday?
Well, okay. There you go, everybody, and welcome into the family show. It's a whole nice to be here.
Well,
Kevin Winter, ladies and gentlemen, spreading his seed across America.
Oh, stop that. All right. There you go.
Well, you went there. You went there.
But I went to the line. I stepped up to the line. You looked at the line, spit on it, and walked across.
But that's, of course, if you're going to step up to the line, go the next step. Why not? All right. Speaking of stepping up to the line in the NBA, let's go ahead and start there. You know that I'm not the NBA guy. I honest to God, here's a revelation. I have actually walked over to the NBA games a little bit on the cable recently.
Okay.
For a little bit and just kind of checked in. I've got a few things there, but, I could start out by going, there is no way in God's green earth, won't happen, cannot happen. I'll stake on this one. No way the New York Knicks beat the Boston Celtics. Will not happen. Over. Done. Knicks fans, be happy what you got. And anytime James Dolan and Cablevision fails, I'll be very happy. That's my NBA. There's my NBA shot right there.
So here's what scares me about that series. And first off, yes, because I love trolling Knicks fans. I love it, in part because the place I worked at had a ton of them. And there was nothing better than walking up, patting them on the back and saying, you tried. You sucked, but you tried. Here's what scares me if I'm Boston, Ed. Celtics beat them all 4 times in the regular season. 3 of them, they blew them out.
That's what I'm saying.
Is this like the NFL, where if you face a divisional rival in the playoffs and you beat that team in the division, you beat them twice in the regular season, and then you go to face them the third time, the 2007 New York Giants against the Dallas Cowboys, and then they pull the upset? You're asking a team now to win eight times in one season. Now, granted.
But I'm not worried about that whatsoever, because you're kind of apples and oranges here. Because in the National Football League, if you play somebody and then you come around in the playoffs, it's a one-game shot. Here it's a best 4 out of 7. And when you look back, it is very difficult to change what happens in the postseason in the NBA than it is in the NFL. And even in the NHL, it changes differently. To me, the NBA, the regular season really becomes an outlier. And I just think the Celtics are getting better. There's no reason to say they're any worse.
I agree with you on that part. I also agree. Orlando has a different style than the Knicks. I don't think the Knicks can play as physical as Orlando just did, and the Celtics still took care of that series in 5. 2 things from me coming out of the NBA. There are 2 players who I absolutely loathe, and they're in the same series right now. And they're both players I wish will never win a championship. And it's James Harden and Russell Westbrook. I just don't know what I'm going to do Saturday night. I don't know which one I want to see.
But you got to explain that, first of all, before you hit that. Why is it that Harden and Westbrook are 2 guys that you wish would never win a championship or never succeed?
I don't like their style of play. Never have. To me, they're ball hogs. I watched James Harden last night in the 4th quarter. the Clippers, so we're doing this on Friday, so this is game 6. Clippers win at home. They pull up, they get it, but Denver makes a run. The Clippers, Harden is dribbling the ball for 20 seconds, and then with 4 seconds to go on the shot clock, in the offensive set, out at the three-point line, he gives up the ball. What the are you supposed to do sometimes as a player when you've given the ball? That's like handing someone the hand grenade when there's 2 seconds to go before it explodes. Here, you throw it. That's all Harden does. On top of, I don't think he's clutch. I don't like his style of play. Similar, and I see he and Westbrook are similar in terms of the flopping. You know, they drive to the hoop,
well.
Harden. Right.
You're talking about Academy Award performances here. Let's go talk about LeBron James, but we'll get to him in a moment.
Well, I agree on that. It drives me nuts, but I don't think Harden's a winner. At least LeBron's a winner. Harden's not a winner. Westbrook's not a winner. And you're never going to. Westbrook missed 2 layups last night in the final 2 minutes. And one of them was uncontested. That's like 7th grade stuff.
When you're at this stage in an NBA career, you would think that Harden and Westbrook, the kind of guys, and I don't have the exact number of years they've been in the league, but these are guys who've been around for a long time. You can't miss those shots. If you're a solid player, a solid performer, you don't miss those. And if you do miss those, that tells me that you're coming to the end of your career, or you just don't give a shit. One of the two.
Agree. And so Harden will still scare me from beyond the arc. He's still a good 3-point shooter. I've always been of the opinion, if Russell Westbrook is out at the 3-point line, for the love of God, you back all the way off of him and say, take the shot, my man, right? You do one of those.
Right.
You give him that shot. I just think for a guy, we fell in love with Russell, and it's almost to the point of he did make his other teammates better when he was at Oklahoma City because he didn't really have a lot to work with, and he still got triple doubles. But he got triple doubles. I think for Westbrook, people fell in love with the fact that he was constantly getting triple doubles, and you do have to applaud the fact that if you're still racking up 10 assists a game, you're finding guys ways to do it. Harden gets triple doubles, in part because some of his teammates bail his ass out when he coughs up the grenade late in the shot clock, and he gives him the ball. They're just not my style of guy. And I'm going to play devil's advocate on this. If you're still the guy, if you're still at that point in your career where you're knocking down triple doubles and you're still getting teams to the playoffs, how the hell can you say they're not getting the job done? Because you're not winning. In my mind, in my eyes, you're not winning a championship. Okay. You're not a championship leader. The great players all say, and there are still guys this year. And look, it has taken me a long time to come around on LeBron James. Just as the style of player, the dude wants to win. The dude wants to win.
Great.
And I respect that. Though I don't know if Harden or Westbrook want to win. And sometimes, Ed, you actually can see it on their faces. I think Westbrook tries too hard because he doesn't have a jump shot. So all he can do is explode to the hole. We fall in love. NBA fans fall in love with guys who can explode to the hole with their athleticism. I get it. Sometimes it is beautiful to watch. But there's not my kind of guy. So I'm happy one of them gets to go home Saturday night. I'm just not sure which one I want to see go home.
Let's then go to LeBron James, because with the Lakers and everything that's happening here right now, you got J.J. Redick basically taking shots at his team for being a bunch of fat guys, when in reality what he's doing is he's saying it to one guy with a man bod who everybody thought was going to walk into this team and that was going to instantly make them a champion. And you can say all you want about Luka. He's not a bad player. I mean, it's not like we're saying that this guy sucks, but he is simply not the type of player that can automatically take over a game and take over a team and will you to a championship, which comes up to my bit about LeBron James. Have we reached the stage where there's no doubting LeBron James as one of the greatest players of all time? Start there before you get the arrows out. But have we reached the point where LeBron James simply is not the guy anymore who can simply will a team to a championship, who simply doesn't have that edge that he had at one point? Has he lost the ability to do that? And maybe it's time for he and the Lakers to kind of move on from each other and the Lakers start to chart a new course.
So a couple of things here. If you look at LeBron's playoff history, or let's phrase this, his seasons in LA, I think there's only 2 that he's made it past the first round. Or I know there's one conference finals the year Denver won. There's obviously the bubble championship. That's it.
Yes,
everything else has been I know. So in his eyes, he'll tell you that's a failure. That's where I respect him.
Yes.
I actually agree with you, and I think it came to fruition in this year's playoffs. He can't carry the load he used to. When he was in Cleveland before he went to LA and he's playing the Celtics, it scared this was Cleveland part 2, by the way. It scared the shit out of me knowing that in games 5, 6, and 7, LeBron's not coming off the floor. And you needed him to. Like, as a Celtic fan, you needed to find a 3-minute window to get him off the floor because he could control the game that way. He can't control the game that way anymore. And JJ, God, I don't know what he did what was it, game 4? Games 3 and 4, when he said, I'm not playing anyone off the bench. Game 4, I know he played no one off the bench in the second half. I mean, every single starter was playing 40 minutes, over 40 minutes. That's hard to do for LeBron these days.
Well, then you're bringing up a good point about between Redick and LeBron. Have we gotten to the point, well, when we say that LeBron can't will the team anymore, he's not that immediate force, put him on the floor, the team wins championships. Is it because LeBron James is getting older? Shocking. I mean, I know we all think that this guy's going to live forever, but it's just getting older. The skills start to fray just a little bit. Or is it a bigger part that the Lakers haven't given him the right pieces to do it with?
Both.
I'm a big guy that always believes that great players become great players because you put the right players around them, especially in the NBA, more than any other team. Franchise, sport. Is it just possible that he's kind of losing some of the skills a little bit because of age? The Lakers aren't giving him the right players, or JJ Redick simply is not the coach to take him to a championship level. Now, you got 3 pieces there.
I think JJ's the coach. I think, and you're walking into one of the preeminent franchises in sport in the Los Angeles Lakers. And you also have the expectations, the weight of the world. I don't know how much he was consulted on the trade, but your team gets blown up and try to revamp on the fly. Everyone immediately puts the pressure on you to win when you get Luka. I'm going to give JJ out of that. I think JJ's a very smart basketball mind. So he now needs the right pieces to fit.
Because he still was able to get the team and keep the team in a competitive level. It didn't completely fall apart when they blew up the team on him. So he took what he had and did the best he could with it. And I think the inclusion of Luka was all wrong. Worst thing you could have done. I think that destroyed the basic fabric of the team, changed it. And Luka, for all his marvelous skills that he has, again, he's Mr. Dad Bod, who really could be a much better player if he'd stay away from the buffet table.
2 things. Back to I put Harden and Westbrook as 2 players I never want to see win a championship. Luka is a player who never will win a championship in my mind. The dude can't play defense and gets exposed. Unless he's on a team that's got a big 4 or like that team that's as deep as Boston, and you can hide him in the fourth quarter. By the way, hiding, I mean on the bench. Right? You know, that's the only way Luka wins. I am not a Luka fan, and we fall in love with offense too much. Back to LeBron for a moment. We watched Tom Brady after the 2018 Super Bowl. They made the playoffs in 19, and then it's over. And Belichick, even at that time, wasn't giving Brady the tools. Remember? I mean, he still had –
there you go.
He had Gronk, and he had Edelman. And then you had a whole bunch of other little guys. And think about what Brady did in that final Super Bowl. That last Super Bowl was a snooze fest until one drive when the Patriots were able to put up that one drive, get the one touchdown, the only touchdown of the game, late in the game. That's where LeBron is right now. 10 years ago, Brady can make those guys better. Brady couldn't in 2019, the year they got knocked out of the playoffs, I think, by the Texans.
Well, right. What you're getting to, it's one of the most difficult things to do in sports when you have a star player or star players is to fill the roster with those role players, the B's and the C guys who can do it and get it done. Hockey has been able to do it. They did it around Ovechkin to basically make the Capitals as good as they are. Other teams have done it around great stars. We get back to the Bruins. They had a couple of great stars. They added terrible players. I mean, instead of getting B's and C's, they put C's, D's, and F's in there. So if you bring this around to the NBA or any other franchise, football, I don't care what sport you're in, you have to put the role players around them properly. That is the toughest thing. Going to a draft, getting a free agent signing, getting the big name player, easy. Simplest thing in the world to do. If you screw that up, then that's where you start screwing up the franchise. But if you can't put the right role players there, it hurts the team. That's what they did with Luka. They went with all the, hey, we got Luka Doncic here. We're going to be great. We're going to win the championship. There's more to it than that, and that's where the front office screwed up.
Agree. And so what they did was they won February. Congratulations. You won the month of February because you got the deal done.
Who cares?
And because you made this. Hey, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. But people fall in love. I can't tell you, and I know there are times I go to the gambling aspect here. I can't tell you how many people. I know how many people right away immediately went, the Lakers are going to the NBA Finals. How? Why? I was saying it since then. I was saying it back then, and all everyone says is they have the two most dominant players on the court. Well, no, because LeBron's not as dominant anymore, as we just mentioned. He's still exceptionally good, and Luka's a ball hog. Now, during the regular season, I actually was impressed with how it was working with Luka and LeBron, and they actually were playing some defense. They just ran. This also shows you the Western Conference is exceptionally deep because the 3 seed just got knocked out by the 6 seed, and they got knocked out in 5. And they got worked. They got worked by the 6 seed because the 6 seed has got a younger player in Anthony Edwards who is hungry. I don't know if I've ever seen Luka hungry.
Well, there's always a case to be made that Luka was shielded in Dallas. He became a very good player. Look, again, we don't want to sit here and have somebody say, oh, Luka's a lot more talented than you guys think. You're not giving him the credit. He is a talented basketball player, without a doubt. But was he made better by the people around him in Dallas? Was he given this reputation? Was he handed it? Did he earn it because he had the right people to help make him better? Absolutely. Again, you're putting him in with a player. So you've got LeBron and Luka. What else you got in order to make that run? You've got to have more than just 1 or 2 players. You got to have the role players. And
I agree
that's
100%.
where they fell. So that's why I'll go with you on that. That it's not JJ Redick's fault.
Okay, and watching the Lakers. So part. Look, this is cynical me. This is as I get older.
Ooh, shocker! Here he is, getting older and being cynical. Watch, ladies and gentlemen, be very careful. Listen and watch carefully as Kevin Winter yells at Cloud.
Yep, old man's going to start yelling at Cloud. Old man gets young man haircut today to make sure he looks good, and yet he's going to act old right now. I love it when everyone goes one way, and they all think it's a foregone conclusion, and then it falls apart in front of their faces, and they don't know what to do. And by the way, when I say everyone, whether it's people on social media, whether it's my old company, because that's all they love to do. That's all they love to do is fall in love with the Lakers, and everything's about the Lakers. Let's talk about the Timberwolves. Why don't we talk about Anthony Edwards in the series he had?
Not a sausage.
Right? Yep. They don't want to know how that sausage is made, do they?
So see,
they don't want to know how that was made.
Let's see. Geez, wait a minute. Shedeur Sanders. Okay, move on.
Look, I mean,
it's the exact same thing.
So I love it when I understand it'll always be a talking point, but when shit gets jammed down our throats these days in this business, in just in the world, I love it when shit gets jammed down our throats and it backfires because we actually look at it and we spit it back up right in their face.
Well, because let's be honest, when it comes to most major media companies, they're looking for the sucker. They need the gullible audience. The gullible audience who will roll over and basically believe anything. Look, we have world leaders right now who are throwing out complete, utter, unflabbergastic lies. It's right there. It's in front of you. It takes 10 seconds to figure it out. It's like if you had the brain of a cabbage, you're basically falling for it. And that's what happens in sports, specifically when they talk up the Lakers, when they talk up Shedeur Sanders, first-round draft pick. This guy's going to change everybody's franchise immediately. And the suckers fall for it. And there's no way around it. If the suckers want to fall for it, they do it because they glom onto it, and it makes them feel as if they're important. Hey, I know something on the inside about LeBron James, and I know something about Shedeur Sanders, and I know something about this. I've heard it on social media. It makes me seem a whole lot smarter, and I'm going to go ahead and kick it out on social media. And look at all my friends are going to look at me and tell me just how brilliant I am. Yeah. Bullshit! You fell for it, and that's what they do.
That's what they do. I agree. So, by the way, I've really enjoyed how much. I mean, you said you've kind of clicked over. I've really enjoyed this first round of the NBA playoffs. Look, I watched every Celtic game. I enjoyed watching. So here's part of it that I view for the NBA. I like watching teams. I liked watching Detroit against the Knicks, the Pistons, and I actually enjoyed watching the Magic against the Celtics. They're gonna be problems, meaning those two teams are going to be in the conversation in the East as the Milwaukee's fall. As Philadelphia is already a disaster. They're out of the equation. I'm not sure how long you can keep this Celtic team together because they're paying what's equivalent to the gross national debt for like luxury tax. It's just insane. But hey, you got new owners who want to do it? Go ahead. The Knicks, if you don't get past this round again, what changes do you make? Again.
Get a new owner. Sorry.
Not here. Good luck. Not happening.
I know it's not.
By the way, hey, he actually spent money on Friday. Apparently he gave Mike Sullivan $7 million. Congratulations.
Well, that's another story altogether here. We could get into. But anytime Chucky Dolan fails, I'm a happy man.
I know. Yes. Another. Yeah. Anytime Chucky Dolan fails, another star goes to heaven.
Exactly.
Yes. So, but back to Detroit. Like I enjoy watching Detroit. I enjoyed watching Orlando because I can actually look ahead and see. If they can get some pieces, they can be something. I actually also enjoy the fact that I want an NBA where you're not just go. Remember, there was that stretch where all people wanted to do was go to Miami. You wanted to go to Los Angeles. You wanted to go like 3 places.
Yep.
And it sucked. It was just bad. It was awful basketball. But other teams fought around that, and they worked around it. And none of those places, except for when LeBron was in Miami. I get it. All right. It worked there for 2 years. A lot of these super teams, they don't work as easy as people want them to, don't they? Like, and that goes back to Luka and LeBron. Oh, that's a super team. Looks like a super team if they can only play offense and they do ball handling drills. Then yeah, that's pretty. There's a lot more to the game than that.
Well, you're bringing up a good point here because have we reached the point where you have super teams or franchises that want to be super teams? Mm-hmm. It used to be that you would try and draft, you would try and add players, you would try and add coaches and do what you could to create a level of consistency. You wanted to be able to win not just for 2 or 3 years, but you wanted to put that franchise together where, yeah, you're not going to win a championship every year, but for maybe at least a good 7 to 10 years, you wanted to plot it out so that you were competitive, you were keeping the fans happy, you were making some noise, you were in the playoff conversation, you were at least there on a consistent basis. But now it seems that we're reaching an era where some teams will say, bullshit, I'm out, I want to win a championship. If I get in there and I win for 2 or 3 years,
yes,
and I really make the stink and I really make people sit up and take notice about us, I'm going to make so much money in that 2 to 3 years because I'm going to jack up ticket prices. I'm going to get my revenue is going to go higher again. My TV ratings are going to be up. I'm going to be able to get more sponsorship deals. So if I have to fail for a couple of years and I'm off the beam for 2 or 3, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
Yep.
I got it covered in those 2-3 years. I'll be back sooner or later. So, but I don't really care about consistency factor. Let me just get that championship and I can move on. I think that's where we are in a lot of sports right now.
I agree 100%. And I'm trying to figure out how to equate this for, you're looking at Denver. Denver wins the title in 23. They win in between the Warriors and Celtics. Denver just fired their head coach. Why?
Just a couple of years.
I mean, I know he was there for 10, and maybe the voice got one. It was a dumb move. I thought it was a dumb move. That's a coach who 2 years ago won you an NBA championship, and a coach who had Nikola Jokic, arguably the best player in the game. He had his attention, his full attention. Milwaukee's a different story, Ed. They win in 21 coming out of COVID. And now this offseason is all going to be about where's Giannis going. I mark my words. This offseason is going to be about, is Giannis done? There's already no Damian Lillard for next year, and you can get a ton for Giannis. But that owner, they drafted Giannis. They found him. They paid him his big contract, and he got it. You sell out, you get the title, and then you, and this is back to the part of always trying to make your team better, and it doesn't always work. They give up everything for Damian Lillard, and with all due respect, that Lillard trade has been a disaster for Milwaukee.
Right.
Giannis couldn't play last year in the playoffs, or a couple years ago, and then this year, Dame was dealing with a lot. That trade has not worked out. That's the risk you take when you try to go for the home run. And if the home run is a swing and a miss, that's actually what sets your franchise back, is when you go for these big super teams and you miss.
But to the ownerships, it's worth every risk, because if we get in there again, and it's about we have the trophy, we got the attention, we made the money, and every single franchise, as soon as they win that championship, up go the ticket prices, up go the ticket packages, up go the rights fees, up go the money that they can make. Everything goes straight up at that point. So, okay, I'm up, and I'm going to level off, but don't worry about it, because those 2-3 years I'm going to spend down here, I can then get up one more shot. I can take it. It has become a yo-yo effect most of the time, not all the time, because the Miami Heat certainly did it very well for a number of seasons. But most of the time it's, I got to get there and I got to sell out to get there. Case in point, and we don't have to move over to hockey right now, but just a case in point, the Boston Bruins did it. They had Bergeron. They had all the tools that were there at the moment. Krejci, everybody, they brought him in. They banged everything. They won the President's Trophy. They got the greatest regular season in history, and then they went in the tank. And since then, they are now going to be an also-ran for a few years. They took the home run swing. They failed. Now they're going to pay for it.
Agreed.
It's just the way it goes in franchises.
And while you bring it up, and that's so, basketball, you can take the home run swing because in the end, talent usually does win. Usually, In hockey, it's not, it's what, 50-50 balance?
At least.
Because all you need is that one guy down the other end of that rink who's standing between those pipes. And if he doesn't let anything in, you're not winning squat.
Right.
You know,
all right. Remind everybody here on listening on the audio podcast, don't forget the podcasts are available on all the major platforms. Just look for the Fastest Show in Sports. If you want to email the show, you can do that at fastestshowinsports@gmail.com. Why did we go Gmail? Because it's easy and it's cheap. And if you want to watch the show, if you're listening on audio podcast, go to YouTube and at the Fastest Show in Sports. That's where you can find us. Next up, we're going to get to this. I got a million things here, but you know I've been setting the table for this all week, and we're going to go here. It is time to ban, to get rid of, to put horse racing in America out of business. It is a blood sport. It is the only so-called sport where its athletes die, and they don't care, and the numbers are there. since January of 2014, and I want to make sure I get this right so everybody understands. Since January 1st of 2014, 11,325 horses have been killed, euthanized, damaged, all for the sake of the inveterate gambler who's got to make a couple of bucks. And this year, as we sit here doing the show on Friday, May the 2nd, this year alone, 67 horses that we know of, because they've been either out there, the point has been made, or a place like horseracingwrongs.com has gotten the FSIS documents to be able to see it. This year alone, 67 horses are dead. Dead. They're not coming back, and they're usually 1, 2, and 3-year-olds. The youth, the younger horses. We're talking about shattered bones. We're talking about hemorrhages. We're talking about breaking down in the middle of competition. We're talking about training exercises. It's got to stop. This is one of the greatest animal abuse cases in the history of American sport, and it has to be put down once and for all. If you're out there, and I'll get hammered for this, and Kevin, I'm not just talking to you. You know this. We've been friends a long time. If you're out there talking about your fascinators at the Kentucky Derby and having the mint juleps and doing all this bullshit, if you're out there putting a couple of dollars on the Kentucky Derby, you are tacitly giving your approval to the death of innocent horses, of animals that don't have to die for a gambling sport and for your $2.
So, I knew it was coming, everyone. I'm not going to lie. In fact, I've noticed it's been coming. And also, I've noticed it's been coming for years. Because actually, I will. This is not maybe it is a crusade. And maybe crusade's not the proper word, but I see this from you every year about this time.
It is right around the first. I'll be happy to go there.
It is the first Saturday in May. You are on this. I am an animal lover. I like to think I can speak with them. They like me. I like them. I also love betting horse racing. I'm not going to lie. And also I sat outside at the fire the other day, middle of the afternoon, great sunny day. And I opened up my TVG account and I was making picks from Santa Anita.
And TVG, in case anybody doesn't know, TVG is the network that has all horse racing all the time.
Yeah, all horse racing all the time. TVG network, that's the number one horse racing one. And so they've got their own network. And would you say that they were the first sport that actually had their own network? Because TVG's been around for a while.
Might have been. Well, if you think about it, they were already, because of off-track betting, Amelia.
Yeah, there you go. Right, exactly.
There were horse races in Santa Anita, which, by the way, has killed 10 horses this year.
Hang on.
You could watch them in New York.
I have a problem. What was it? How many years ago did Santa Anita have an issue with their track?
A couple of years ago.
I was not a fan of that. That's one of those where everything needed to be shut down. You need to gut the track. I had your back there. That track needed to be shut down, and you needed to gut the turf because the turf was what was killing them.
It's still a problem, though. 10 horses have died this year at Santa Anita as we speak right now. And at Belmont Park, that jewel of racing in the Northeast, 11 horses have died to this day right now.
I know.
So that's two tracks. Two tracks now with a third of the horses that have died this year in competition.
For what you laid out, there is no argument against. The problem is, and I'm trying to play your side here for a moment. The problem is you're not going to ever succeed. You're never going to convince someone like NBC not to broadcast the Derby, because come tomorrow, and we're doing this on a Friday, we're doing this the first Friday before the Derby. The Friday before the Derby. Come tomorrow at 6:24 when they go to the post at Churchill Downs. NBC's numbers are going to spike like you're riding your very first archaic roller coaster that goes straight up the hill. The numbers are just going to go through the roof, and and you're going to try to log on to a betting account, and you're not going to be able to get in because there's too much action going on.
But more than NBC, and I get you, with the networks that are out there broadcasting it, I get it with the amount of money. It is all greed. End of the day, that's it. But outside of NBA, what is the main reason, in your opinion, that horse racing simply will not go away? There is only one reason why.
Gambling.
No.
Gambling.
Gambling is actually 1A. Gambling is part of it. It is part of that connection. It is the states themselves that are making gobs of cash that they pick off. State of Florida makes a tremendous amount of money on horse racing. State of California makes a tremendous amount of money on horse racing. The government is raking in bucks, and there's no one sitting at the governmental level that will say we have to stop horse racing. Why? Because they're getting the taxes. They're getting the kickbacks. They're getting they're getting the money from the track. If the government were to come out and say something about it, you would then start to see an erosion that might come down even in the gambling side. But when you have that sort of leadership, if you will, that fake, phony, bullshit leadership that says all we want is our kickbacks from the tracks, that's where it was. If that stopped coming in, if the states got involved, gamblers can go make all the big runs they want. They're not going to have anything to gamble on.
All right, so now this is
it's like a 1 and a 1A.
All right, I mean, think about this. I'm not going to lie. Horse racing helped me survive COVID because it was the only thing on that I could gamble on during the day. I'm not going to lie. Ed, and you're going to hate me for it, okay?
I'm never going to hate you for it, but I'm just going to throw my arms up and I'm going to guess why. You said at the beginning of this conversation that you love animals.
I do.
You did. Gotcha. If you love animals, then you can't be gambling on horse racing because you are tacitly approving the deaths of these horses.
I get it. I understand it. I want to go back to your point with the government and states.
They all get tax revenue.
Oh, I get it. So notice things in government only get moved when it actually affects them.
Yes.
How do I say this nicely without opening up Pandora's box? But I don't think I'm just going to say it. No one gives a shit about guns in schools or school shootings until it happens in your district.
Or until it happens to your child.
Or until it happens, or until it happens to your child. Now, I was thinking more along the line of the politician.
Yep.
But no, a politician doesn't care until it happens in their district because then their constituents have been affected. And so then they fight for legislation. Take that, and don't argue with me, everyone. You know it's true. And then in a month, it disappears.
Agreed. A month, not even a month.
I know, not even a month. But now I want to take it to horse racing. So how would a government or a representative, someone in a legislature, how would they actually, what would be their recourse to bring that to the floor and to try to ban it?
They would have to get to the point that it is animal cruelty from top to bottom, and they are basically making money off the deaths of these animals, and not only that, but the injuries suffered by the jockeys themselves, which can be catastrophic in many ways.
Oh, yeah.
You are dealing in a blood sport. This is the only sport, and for those of you not watching, I'm using the air quotes. This is the only sport where the athletes die. There is no other sport in the world, where the athletes can die for the pleasure of the $2 gambler. And that's where the politicians have got to start. We should not be profiting from what is a blood sport. And that could get it started, but you're going to find too many people who are going to say, we're making too much money. The tax revenue is helping us. We got to keep it going. That's the same thing happened with dog racing in the state of Florida and in other sports. It took years to get rid of dog racing, which is a brutal, brutal sport for how these animals are treated in so many ways and how they are abused and thrown away.
You want to know why? I'll jump here because I used to go as a kid, I actually phrase this. When I was in high school, Lincoln Park, Twin River, which is now Twin River in Massachusetts, I would go to Lincoln Park. We would go as 16-year-olds. It's just a matter of did someone at the door ask you for your ID, and if they didn't, we'd go sit and we'd go play the slot machines as 16-year-olds. Of course we did.
Yep.
But behind that was the dog track, and I actually was fascinated by it The difference is more people like Foofy the dog than they do Bronco the horse.
Most people can have Foofy the dog instead of having one. They have him in their house.
Agree. So more people are more relatable to Foofy the dog, whoever it is, whatever the dog is. They're more relatable to the dog than they are to the horse, because that's a family member. A horse will never be considered a family member. A dog.
Well, it depends on certain areas, but it's a different level where you have farms and people who raise the horses.
Right.
Look, I have people that I've interviewed and know over the years who are basically veterinarians for horse racing, who were those who funded it, those who had farms in it. They can't do it anymore because they got tired of the animals dying. These animals are so overdrugged and overraced at a young age. If you had a horse and you were able to do them 4, 5, 7 years of age, maybe it would be different because the physiology would be different of the animals and they could maybe stand some of the punishment. But these are 1 and 2 year old animals who are torn from their mothers, who are basically made to do nothing more than get out there on the track, and the pounding that they take, and the pounding they take because they are drugged, because there is a drug issue in this sport that the owners and the trainers will walk away from, and they'll tell you, it's just Lasix is all it is. It's to help the horse. Bullshit. It's basically to make the horse take the punishment, and their bodies can't take it. That's part of the problem here.
So I told you I had a friend, a potential, maybe someone else who could hop in at times. When we found out, Mike, it was just going to be you and I running point today, or you running point, I'm riding shotgun, and that's it. We got no backseater today. I almost asked you, do you want me to try to get my friend in, because he's older? He's an older guy, and he's a horse racer. I mean, he's a gambler, horse racing guy. And I almost did it, and I just went, I'm not sure I want the first introduction to the first meeting. It should just be holy hell. It would have been awesome, but
I'm willing to have a logical conversation with anybody on this.
Okay.
I mean, look, I've won Emmy Awards. Yeah. One of my Emmy Awards.
Hang on, by the way, I see it sitting over your right shoulder.
That's one of my Emmys, right? That's right over there.
Right there. Yeah, that's it. That's
okay.
It.
And some of the Emmys I was nominated for involved horse racing coverage.
Right.
When I was at Sports News Network, the original 24/7 SNN, back in 1990, and one of the original anchors there, I was the only guy who knew horse racing. I did the Triple Crown series.
Sure.
That was the year Unbridled won the Kentucky Derby. And I was involved. I know all the people. I've got local people I've got trainers and people who are friends of mine. They won't talk to me now. They shun me. They walk past me. Because to them, I'm basically hurting their profit margin now. I'm getting into their sport. But I will have that conversation anytime with anybody. The buck stops here. How can you support a sport that kills its athletes? Answer that question for me, and we can start a conversation. And that's not at you. That's a general question I'm putting out to everybody. Because I don't give a shit if you gamble on the NBA and the NFL. You go right ahead. If you want to plunge your brains out and ruin your kids' futures and get rid of your mortgage and do all that, you go right ahead. You go right ahead, because to me it's you're damaging yourself. Yes, there are, with Gamblers Anonymous and everything else, there are ways to damage your family. But in this instance, they kill the athletes.
Yep.
All you have to do is go down, and people don't see it anymore. Ruffian. Let me just say Ruffian, the match race. When Ruffian broke down and both legs shattered on live television and drove that animal into the ground, she had no more legs left. They were gone from the knee down, and they had to kill her right there on the spot. If that's not enough to make you say, I got to stop this, then something's wrong. And when you talk about the Kentucky Derby and all these and the Triple Crown races that are going to be out here right now, you want to know what will start putting an end to horse racing in America? You're watching the Kentucky Derby, and right there on live television, on NBC's Big Gun, a horse dies.
Right.
Breaks a leg, falls down, takes another couple of horses with it, takes a couple of jockeys with it. I will tell you that right now, as we sit there, and what will happen on Saturday, Every single producer is sitting there, and NBC's sitting there, and every trainer and every person involved in horse racing is going, "Oh Jesus, sweet God, don't let it happen on this race."
Right.
They're all praying it doesn't happen.
I'm sure they do. Every time they air a race, I'm sure they do. Every time they air a race, they guarantee it's, I need this. Let's go. Let's have a clean race. 2 minutes to be clean. Everyone gets out of this alive.
Yes.
And then you don't have to do the follow-up story of, well, you saw the 6-horse pull up lame. And unfortunately, he had to be euthanized on the in the medical tent or in the stables. He's euthanized. And then, but I will back you on this play. I love how the phrase is euthanized, and I understand what it means. I'm not dumb, but they don't just say, what do you say about a dog? A dog had to be put down.
Put down.
We put down. They don't say that about a horse, do they?
No.
They say the horse was euthanized on the track.
It's a pretty multisyllabic word, euthanize. It just goes by, okay, euthanize. We had to take care of. Bullshit. You killed the animal because the animal was injured, and horses cannot stand on their legs with that amount of weight when you have fractures and you have feet and legs that are crushed. But you also have a lot of other things that are involved. Look, I ask everybody, the website, the gentleman's name is Patrick Battuello, and he has been fighting this fight for decades. It's horseracingwrongs.org. Just go to it. Just read what he's done. Look at the numbers, the sheer numbers. Like I said, 11,000 in a generation, and 60. What was my word today? 67, as of right now, the way we're speaking, have been killed this year in horse racing. I don't know how else to say.
I get you.
I
get you.
I just don't know. That's why I'm begging you. I know you're a gambler. I know you're the degenerate gambler. Get away from the horse racing, bud. Bet on NBA, bet on NHL, do all that stuff, but stop giving a tacit approval to the fact that they kill horses, don't they? And that's totally up to you. Reminder again, if you want to get a hold of us on social media, and my sheet went.
Yeah, this would be this is a good time to promote that.
If you're listening to us on the audio podcast, if you're watching the video podcast, you see all our information scrolls. You know how to get a hold of me and Kevin on social media. But if you want to get a hold of us, don't forget the podcast is on all the major platforms and the Fastest Show in Sports. Email fastestshowinsports@gmail.com. I'll take it. Lay it out. Go for it. There's no holds barred here. And if you want to watch the YouTube channel, if you're listening on podcast at the Fastest Show in Sports, you can watch the show on YouTube. And I also put out all kinds of little links to it all week long. Now,
hey,
okay. I had my moment. Go ahead.
I want to stay on something here. Now that we're on tangents, and I'm going to my Twitter account, so hang on.
Is not every sports talk show a tangent show? It's the way it's made these days.
Well, hang on. So last week, you and I did, you, Mike, and I, we were doing something regarding Dion Shador. Shit, where'd the comment go?
I knew it. We couldn't go the whole show. I tried desperately. I wanted to get us away from Shador Sanders, but we had to go there one way or another.
Well, here's why. So we were talking about Shador. So when we were doing the show on Friday, Shador hadn't been drafted in round 1. He didn't get drafted in round 2, or 2 and 3. And basically, all of a sudden, the three of us get called racist. Or we basically say, I can't find the tweet. I wonder if it got deleted. We get a response. Look at this. 3 white guys talking about racism. Oh, that's rich. What? We can't talk about anything because we're white, or we can't talk about an issue? Like it annoyed me because that part of it, we weren't talking about race. But because we're talking about Shador, and we were 3 middle-aged white guys, because the comment said 3 middle-aged white guys.
Right.
We're not allowed to talk about Shador.
If you're 3 middle-aged white guys, you can't talk about it in a sense of that you have to be racist. Look, a lot of the comments that we got on this came off TikTok. We get a lot of views on TikTok at Berliner Speaks. Yep. And if you're looking at the social media here, you can get to me at Instagram, X, Facebook, and TikTok at Berliner Speaks. Kevin, you can get on X at Kevin P. Winter. But a lot of the racist comments that we received were on TikTok. We got a tremendous amount there.
Okay.
Many years ago, and this will go back to, again, the days of Sports News Network. In 1990, I was one of the original 7 anchors. One of the first satellite interviews we did was Jim Brown. And Jim Brown, while being a legend in the NFL, is also someone who is very active in social causes and very active in causes that help the black athlete.
Yep.
I got selected to do the interview. I asked a question of Jim Brown about a black athlete and about how the black athlete is treated. And Jim Brown came back to me and said, "My brother, you cannot speak about racism because you're white. You don't know what we've been through. You don't know the struggles that we've had. So you can't speak about racism simply because you haven't been there." I reacted badly to that question, and I got called on the carpet by the executive producer of the network, saying that you don't get into a spit fight with Jim Brown over this because it turned into a little bit of an anger piece. And this, because for whatever reason I had learned, over the years, Howard Cosell was a hero of mine simply because he told it like it is. He got involved in the conversation, and he did it intelligently. Many athletes broached and bristled at Cosell because they said, "You've never been an athlete, so you can't speak about athletics, and you can't give us that because you've never been there." And Cosell had a book out, "I Never Played the Game." He came back and admitted, "I'd never played the game, but because I'm an intelligent man of any race, any type, I can speak intelligently about what's happening." I felt the same way. I don't see race. When I discuss things, you don't see it. Mike doesn't see it. We dealt with the Shedeur Sanders issue because of the issue that it was, and it had absolutely nothing to do with race. But there are those who say, because you are white, you can't speak about it intelligently because you've never been there. That's the problem.
So, I think my dad got me that Howard Cosell book, or he pointed it out.
I still have it somewhere.
Yeah, I think my dad got that book for me because he pointed it out to me especially when I wanted to get into this business. When I was a junior in college, junior in high school. I'm with you on the. I don't see it. I talk about it because I want to know what happened. I don't want to gloat that I had a better life than you. I want to know what it was. I'm genuinely interested in your story. We are storytellers. I learned from you. Mike's an award-winning author, right? That's a storyteller. I want to help you tell the story of what it was like. I'm not trying to just because I'm white and asking the question doesn't mean I don't care. Of course I care. And I'm not trying to find. I don't want to sit here and hear and ask a question about how hard was it or what was it like because I want to hear. I'm gonna relish in your struggles. It's not why I'm asking a question. I genuinely want to know what it was like because I want others to know who may relish in your struggles. I want them to know this sucks what he went through, and we need to cut the shit. That's why I ask those questions, and that's why I get involved in conversations. I had a lot of friends at ESPN, younger generation at ESPN, and we had a lot of diversity, and we talk, and we'd have. Look, they knew me. I was a guy they could talk real with, and I could talk real with. So we'd have conversations, and they'd say to me, one of them would joke to me and say, "Yeah, I can't do that," and I look at him and go, "Come on." And we would just have some fun because it's just the open relationship. But I'd seriously ask him, "Do you feel that way still?" And he'd say, "Sometimes, even here." And I don't like that. It bothers me. So when I ask questions, when I talk about it, I'm not talking about it to offer an opinion of, X side is right or X side is, or this side's right, this side's wrong. I talk about it because I care. And I want your story to be out there and your story to be told. And I'd like to think that one of my best strengths is asking questions. And I'd like to think one of my best strengths is getting something, pulling the next part out of you and pulling that emotion out of you. So that's why I talk about it. And that's when I get pissed, when people automatically see a trigger conversation or a trigger word like Shedeur, and they automatically put it up. And if the word racism comes in, it's discussed, and then it's all, 3 white guys talking about it. No, we weren't talking about race. We were talking about it drove me nuts, Ed.
Well, it has me for years as well, because the issue is not, yes, as I said to Jim Brown, and I saw him many years later.
Did he recognize you?
Yes. You remember the name? You remember the conversation? And I admitted to him, I said, Jim, you're right. I don't know what you've been through. I didn't live it. I didn't live in this. I didn't live in your city. I didn't live in your town. And I didn't know what it was like for you to be absolutely harassed, hated, spit on when you were a kid. I don't know it, but I want to know what happened. And I want to know why. And I want to uncover that. And I want us to talk about it. And I want to understand. So just because I'm white, I don't understand. I wasn't there, but I want to understand what happened. I want to bring that to light. I want to make sure that's out there. And here's something that I can spit right now with Shedeur Sanders. I hope he kicks ass. If he gets out there and he becomes a Hall of Fame quarterback, good for him. Okay? Right. Fine. I have nothing against him. The story, the issues, the things we've talked about, we can mock them, we can discuss them, we can get into them, we can do all that. But if he in the end comes out, it's not like I'm going to say, oh, Christ, look at that kid. Oh, Jesus. Hall of Fame. He didn't deserve to be Hall of Fame. If you get there and if you work hard and if you're part of it, mazel tov. Go for it. Be the gun. Make all the money you can. That's like another thing. I tell young athletes today and young broadcasters, make as much money as you can. Go for it. But some people aren't going to be there.
No.
And some people are not going to make all that money. And we need to understand, this goes back to the conversation we had way earlier at the beginning of this show, where the reason why Shedeur and all this started was because places like ESPN jumped right on it as a contrived controversy. And they drove this for nothing more than ratings.
I didn't see, by the way, the beginning. I was doing a lot of things. Apparently, and I guess SVP actually blasted ESPN too, because as soon as Cam Ward was drafted, it immediately went to like the Shedeur and Travis show. And SVP was pissed that Cam Ward didn't get his flowers. And so
which he should have, number 1 pick.
He should have. He's the number 1 pick. By the way, I want to go back to Shedeur for a moment, because I want to defend him. What happened to him with Jeff Ulbricht's kid is a fucking disgrace. And it's garbage. That's crap. And I'm not sure. And there's plenty of people to go around here, starting with the NFL, that the NFL put why does a defensive coordinator have the fucking quarterback's number for the draft pick? Because he went on.
Well, wait a minute. Hang on. I can understand that. Because as an assistant coach, sometimes he could have been given it.
Only 32 people are supposed to have that phone number. But because Shedeur, I heard this said, and Louis Riddick, I think it was Louis Riddick, or maybe Ryan Clark. They actually they nailed this. Shedeur doesn't have an agent. So Ed, I hire you as my agent. I tell you, Ed, this is the phone I'm going to use for the draft. It's not my personal one. This is the one what you're going to use, right? Here's the number. You give this to the teams. Who are you sending that phone number to?
Either the personnel director or the general manager or the coach, depending on who the person is in charge of the actual drafting and the talent.
Apparently, the NFL used their NFL-wide distribution list for league personnel for Shedeur's number, which meant Jeff Ulbricht's kid, all he had to do was, as soon as Dad's iPad is open, just kind of pop into the email. Now, how did the kid know it was there? That's a problem.
See, it could have been where the Atlanta Falcons, and again, we don't know a lot of the background on this. I
No, we
want to
don't,
address
but-
the NFL in just a second here. But the
Go ahead.
email could have been sent along to the coaches, and there could be reasons for the assistant coaches to have the numbers
Right.
once you get to the actual franchise level. My problem with all this is the NFL punishing not just the Falcons. You got $250,000 bust for the Falcons, but you hit Ulbrich, the coach, with $100,000. Holy shit! Really, you ignorant sons of bitches! You're gonna bust this guy because his kid got into his pad? I mean, for God's sake, that's ridiculous. It's not like he said to my kid, "Go ahead and call Shedeur Sanders."
No, it's not. Remember growing up, and I'm going to speak to this. Growing up, my parents would say, if I were to get in serious trouble, it reflects on me, and they have to deal with the consequences sometimes because you couldn't punish me. The NFL can't punish those kids. Someone's got to be responsible for what they did.
Then punish the team. Punish the team, then hit them with that $250,000 fine. I'll get that to go ahead and distribute the number. But the coach?
It's his kid.
But he has no power over it if his kid breaks into the pad and looks for his kid is the one who did this. Look, I get this whole thing about, well, I guess the father must not have been very smart because he let his kid get into the pad and steal the number. That's ridiculous. It's not like he could stop that because in this day and age, most kids are out there stealing things off their parents' electronic devices on a daily basis.
But I think this shows this shows responsibility, the chain of responsibility. I can't say this because I don't have kids. I have watched. I know. We started the show by saying I've been trying. Anyway, but not really. I have watched the chain of responsibility drop in society. Wouldn't you say?
Yes.
The chain of okay. This is an example of the chain of responsibility actually now being put back into place. Someone has to be responsible for what he did. This is where I go back to when I was a kid, where if my parents could get punished for some things. What was the case?
But do you really think that you have to sit there and you have to worry that your kid's going to break into your work pad and he's going to steal the number for Shedeur Sanders and create another monkey moment? I mean, just some stupid kind of prank, if you will. Do you really is that something that he needs to be held responsible for? That he needs to be worried about?
Worried about no, and maybe this goes to parenting in and of itself. Why the hell are you in my laptop? Why?
Right.
Do you really think that's funny? My dad actually had a great saying to me when I was a teenager, because I was a punk.
What are you doing in the bathroom so long?
Nope, not that one. And I was a punk, and I was a wise ass. And he eventually, I know, shocking, from one redhead to another. He actually says to me, my dad says to me, I'm going to tell you something right now. You're at the age where if you think it's funny, it probably isn't.
Good advice.
And hang on. And as I've gotten older, I watched my buddy with my nephews. He's now using that. Where if because you get a little that squirrely area, right? And that's one of those things in society right now where if you think it's funny, kids, because you can put it on the internet and it's going to get laughs, it may get laugh up until about the age of 16. But now there's repercussions. But wait, if you're Jeff Ulbrich, what are you making your kid pay?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Okay.
I'm not going to step into that with just an offhanded comment. Certainly there has to be repercussions.
Right.
The father's not going to trust this kid the rest of his life. The kid issued basically what is a worthless apology after it's done. There is a sensibility in this country right now that thanks to a lot of the TV shows, the radio shows, the talk shows, that doing pranks like this is okay. But then again, you had this done. This is nothing new. I mean, radio shock jocks have been doing shock calls to people for decades. I mean, I can go back to a number of them back in the 70s and the 80s who did
Sure, I'm sure, but
but
now
it becomes
you can
destructive
see-
at this point.
It does. And now you can see there are repercussions for your actions. So maybe this is the ultimate teaching moment.
Okay. I'll give you that. The ultimate teaching moment, fine. There is no way that Jeff Ulbrich should be busted $100,000 by the NFL. The Falcons, you get them. Franchise, I'm going to follow your logic on this, which is you give the number out, the franchise has got it. The franchise then takes it, they disseminate it to all of their coaches or to this one coach, whatever. But somehow it wound up in an email and it winds up in his private account, which has to be, I would only hope that it would be a Falcons account that he's in, which is protected, that not all of a sudden we're into a signal thing here, not nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more.
Yeah.
We go to that crap. But I would hope that, so then if he left it on his laptop and his email is there, the kid then had to break into the pad, or the pad's not protected. The father doesn't have it password protected and leaves it sitting out. The kid then had to say, look, I'm going to go into the email. Look, Shedeur Sanders, let's go ahead and do this. The kid's a sneaky little shit is what he is.
Yes.
And he's got to learn something from this. What he learns, that's got to be the father's and the parents' side of this. But I don't think it was fair to bust him $100,000. Maybe you hit the Falcons with a $500,000 fine instead of just the $250,000 and really make it something worthwhile. $250,000 to a franchise, kiss that goodbye. That's no big deal.
Arthur Blank's still fine for $500,000, even if it were $500K. He's
okay. Yeah, he's still $500K out of the franchise. Doesn't mean anything. Maybe this speaks more to the security measures of the National Football League, who needs to be a little bit more involved in protecting their players.
So there you go.
So we're coming back around. I still put this all on the Falcons, Kevin.
I agree. I'm just upset, and I've watched the chain of responsibility falter, whether it's on social media, just in life. And it's not how I was raised. I was raised with whatever you do reflects on me. And it's not that my parents cared what people thought of them. It's they cared how they were viewed, and how do I act in public reflects on them. And I understand this in an entirely different generation. We are in a generation where people don't give a flying fuck about what people think of them. And and part of it is maybe we are in the don't care generation. I don't care. I'm going to do whatever I do. I'm going to do me. But when I was growing up, I was told, however you act in public, it reflects on us. So be on your best behavior. And if you don't, when you get home, your ass is upstairs.
Look, we're in the social media I don't care generation at this point.
Well, that's
the kid had to think about this. He had to think about,
generation.
Did he really think that he was going to make this call to Shedeur Sanders and it wasn't going to get picked out? That they weren't going to check with the franchise, the New Orleans Saints, anybody else to make sure that this call was actually made? Did he think he was going to get away with it? If he did, he's as stupid as the day is long. Put a cabbage in that kid's skull and let him be an idiot for the rest of his life.
They posted the video.
Yes. Which is okay, because I want clicks. I want people to watch me. I want people to see this. This is hysterical. God. Boy, look at all these people that are going to come to us and, hey, maybe we'll get an influencer gig out of this. That's how this idiotic, stupid social media juvenile mind thinks these days. And it's not just juvenile. Let me stop right there. No, it's people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s who are doing it every day.
Yep. Agree. Hey, Ed, thank God these things weren't around when we were growing up, right?
Oh, for God's sake. I mean, I think
I'm what, 20 years younger than you? 10 years younger than you? Ooh, I went 20. That was heavy. That was too heavy.
That's okay. I don't care. It really doesn't make a difference. One of these days, I'm going to go back and I'll write a book just about I'll let it go. I don't care at this point. I'll just put all the stupid shit out there that I did and say, this is what would have happened if we would have had phones. You'd have known about this. Anyway, reminder again, everybody, if you're listening to us on the audio podcast or if you're watching on the video, don't forget you can listen to every show. Go to where you get your podcast, the major platforms, The Fastest Show in Sports. Email fastestshowinsports@gmail.com. And YouTube, for those of you listening on the audio, you can go to the YouTube channel, which is at The Fastest Show in Sports, and you can watch the shows there. All right, buddy. Good job again. Here we go. You got some stuff coming up next week. We'll see you next Friday, and we'll do this all over again. Don't bet on. Come on, man. Don't bet on the Derby. Come on, please.
I know.
Please. Basketball, go ahead. Don't bet on the Derby. I can only beg so much, man.
You can only beg so much, pal.
I know. Come on.
I know.
Love your animals. Do it right. Love your animals. Don't bet on the Derby, people. Let it go. He's Kevin Winter. I'm Ed Berliner. Thanks for joining us on the fastest show in sports. Until next time, rock on, true believers. See ya!
That's all, folks.